This is the rundown from WUFT News, exploring our community from top to bottom. I'm Kristen Shermont-Spina. Coming up on the show, drowning is the leading cause of death among young children, but a new state voucher program is providing discounted swim lessons to some families. And later, the summer heat is here in full force. What songs are people listening to escape the sweltering temperatures? But first, we're 12 weeks into hurricane season, a time when many Floridians are thinking about flooding, and not just on the coast. Inland communities have faced catastrophic floods in recent years, but a 6-month investigation by WUFT's Rose Schnabel found that a state flood resilience program spends almost all of its dollars on the coast.
After a big storm, you've likely heard the headlines.
An inland community flooded after swollen rivers were overwhelmed by the storm.
It's going to take up to a year to recover from some of the damage we saw from this flooding.
And these headlines aren't from Tampa or Miami. They're from communities more than 40 miles from the coast. But they faced devastating floods in the past 5 years. Climate change is raising flood risks on coasts and inland. That's according to Carrie Cook, a professor who studies climate at the University of Texas at Austin.
Storms are getting stronger and they deliver more water per minute, for example, and this can increase flooding for sure.
Historically, Florida has focused a lot of its flood resilience efforts on the coasts. But in 2021, the state legislature created a program meant to help inland communities, too. It's called Resilient Florida. Here's Governor Ron DeSantis announcing the program at a press conference in 2021.
And it laid out basically a roadmap for what we would be able to do to really help both coastal efforts, but also inland efforts in terms of making Florida more resilient to a lot of the threats we face, particularly from flooding.
A WUFT investigation found the program isn't fully delivering on that promise. Projects in coastal counties have gotten 95% of the program's implementation grant money. That's for projects like upgrading fire stations and stormwater systems. Projects in Miami-Dade County alone have gotten nearly $458 million, over 5 times more than projects in all inland counties combined.
Florida's peninsula, we're surrounded by water.
This is Ana Escamani. She represents Orange County in the Florida House of Representatives.
So I understand the emphasis on coastal communities when it comes to rising sea level, but no one is immune to it.
And that includes the city of Longwood, just north of Orlando. It applied to Resilient Florida twice to relocate its fire station because of severe flood risks. And twice, Resilient Florida turned it down without giving Longwood any feedback. WUFT obtained records showing staff rejected the application because of, quote, insufficient documentation to identify flood risk.
It's getting more and more competitive. And
Amanda Boone helps communities apply for Resilient Florida.
Having a good project is not hard. Articulating that to a grantor that's not familiar with the local jurisdiction is a little more difficult.
Boone works for an engineering firm that local governments hire to manage their projects. Smaller inland communities may lack the staff to submit competitive grant proposals, she said, or not have enough money to meet cost share requirements.
But there is a intense need across the state, and you're going to continue to see major applications for implementation grants. Hopefully the program continues to get funded because there's a strong need.
Back when the program kicked off in 2021, it was allotting $438 million, mostly from federal funds. But Resilient Florida's budget has shrunk by over 60% since then. And yeah, that does make it more competitive for any community, but especially for those inland. Even so, Resilient Florida staff released their implementation project awards last month, and there is one inland community, Newberry, that got a grant. It's the first project in an inland county to get funded in 2 years. Rose Schnabel, WUFT News.
That report you just heard was the result of months of in-depth investigative journalism from Rose Schnabel, our environmental reporter here at WUFT. She also wrote an extensive digital write-up. To take a peek behind the curtain, I sat down with Rose after her story was done to ask her about the process of reporting such an extensive piece. So, Rose, what inspired you to pursue this story?
It was about a year ago now, we're talking last August, and I saw some chatter on Facebook about FEMA updating flood maps in rural parts of Florida. And it got me thinking about how with climate change, we're seeing people who don't consider themselves as living in a flood zone suddenly face it. And that was the starting point. And I started thinking about Hurricane Helene and the flooding in North Carolina and how devastating that was to these folks who had never really considered themselves at risk. And so that got me thinking, well, is the state of Florida doing anything to prepare for that or to help with that? And I came across a program called Resilient Florida, which is a state grant program that is supposed to help communities prepare for these rising risks of flooding. And I looked at the map of where these grants had gone, and it was like a perfect perimeter around the state. And so that really got me thinking, are these inland communities even applying? And that was sort of my initial research question.
And what did you end up finding?
It was pretty close to what I had initially suspected, which is that the vast majority of this program's funds are going to coastal communities. So more than 95% of the money the program's ever spent has gone to projects in coastal counties. That led me to, well, how did this happen? And I started talking to the people who help folks apply for this program, who help local governments apply. And they pointed towards some legislation, the Florida Peril of Flood Act that came in 2015, which got coastal communities to start putting on paper their rising flood risks and to start considering them in planning and policy. But it wasn't required for inland communities. And so a lot of folks told me that this was sort of front of mind in coastal Florida and maybe not as much in inland Florida. But then I was talking to people who live in inland Florida, and they say, yeah, we've had our fire stations flood. We know that road floods. We know that Hurricane Helene or Hurricane Irma was really devastating in this community. And so then I sort of got to the why of, if these inland communities still have these urgent flood risks, then why are they not getting the same level of support? And that led me to Roy Baker, who works with Opportunity Florida in the Panhandle. And he was the one to kind of introduce me to the topic that a lot of these rural places are chronically under-resourced, and they just don't have the staff, they don't have the tax bases to make these sorts of upgrades or to apply for these projects.
And you spoke to so many people during this project. Walk me through some of those conversations.
Absolutely. There's so much that happened in this project that I wish had made the cut. When you do 8 months of reporting, it's more than you could possibly fit into an audio story or a digital piece. But I went to Live Oak to see sort of the impacts of this firsthand, because they've had some catastrophic flooding from Hurricane Debbie and Tropical Storm Debbie. They really don't like the name Debbie over there. And so I spoke to one gentleman, William James McCullers, and he owns a gun shop. And he remembers coming home back when Hurricane Dora happened, a long, long time ago. He was a boy then, and now he's in his 70s or 80s. And that was the first time his community had ever flooded. And he was like, okay, well, this will be a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It was really terrible, but we made it through. And then it happened again and again. And so Live Oak applied for a grant through Resilient Florida, but it didn't make the cut. And it hasn't been able to fund the type of wholesale infrastructure upgrades that it needs. And Mr. McCullers is saying, well, when is my store going to flood next? Like, how sustainable is it to continue operating this way? He can't even get his place insured because of how often it floods.
That was WUFT environmental reporter Rose Schnabel explaining the process behind her months-long investigation into inland flooding. To see if your county or municipality has ever gotten a grant and to read the full investigation, visit our website at wuft.org. If you're just joining us, this is the Rundown from WUFT News. I'm Kristen Shermont-Spina. Florida has a lot of stories to tell. Do you know your community's history? It's time for a trivia question. Which North Central Florida natural landmark became Florida's first state preserve in 1971? Stay tuned to the end of the show for the answer. We're going to take a quick break, but coming up on the show when we return, drowning is the leading cause of death among young children in Florida. A state voucher program is trying to change that. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Rundown. I'm Kristen Shermont-Spina. Florida is doing more to help kids learn to swim. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, drowning is the leading cause of death among children ages 1 to 4, and childhood drownings are increasing in Florida. Last year, the state recorded its highest number of child drowning deaths. 120 children lost their lives. And so far this year, 89 children have died, on track to surpass last year's tragic record. And autistic children are even more likely to die from drowning. But this year, Florida is trying to change that. The state is expanding a voucher program that's helping some families afford swimming lessons. To learn more about it, I spoke with NPR reporter Janaki Mehta, who recently wrote a story about the program.
The state of Florida has had a voucher program aimed at low-income families for swim lessons since 2024. But on July 1st, a law went into effect expanding that program. So what's changed is that now it's aimed at kids ages 1 to 7, and children with autism are going to be given priority. The vouchers generally come out to about $200 per child and cover 8 lessons. And actually, the application period is now open. Families can go to the Florida Department of Health's website to apply.
And in your story, you focus specifically on swim lessons for children with autism. Why is the state specifically prioritizing these kids?
It's because kids with autism can be 160 times as likely to die from drowning than other children. So that's a hugely elevated risk. And part of that is because some autistic children can be very attracted to water. The feeling of it on their skin, the sparkle of the water, the pressure on them, it can all feel really good for many kids with autism. But at the same time, they're also prone to wandering or running away. And so those two things can make for a really dangerous combination. And research shows that effective swim lessons are one of the best ways to combat that drowning risk.
During your reporting, you visited a YMCA swim program in Broward County, where the emphasis wasn't just on teaching swimming, but using specific techniques geared towards kids with autism. We have a quote from someone you interviewed, researcher Tanya Santiago Perez.
The biggest impact is that they're able to improve their swim skills in a short period of time. That in 5 or 6 sessions, they're able to improve swim skills, to us is very powerful.
So what are some of the ways she recommends teaching these skills, especially for autistic children?
Yeah, so Tanya actually helped train some of the instructors that work at this YMCA that I visited. This program for kids with disabilities called Swim Buddies. So I got to see the instructors use those techniques in the water with students. And Tanya pointed out how every child in Swim Buddies goes through a formal evaluation to see exactly what needs and strengths they have. And then instructors individualize their lessons to ease kids into the water in a way that works for them. Like, for example, I saw instructor Garland Jones working with a 5-year-old named Mackenzie Wesley on safe breathing techniques because Mackenzie, who has autism, came to the program absolutely loving water, but hating the feeling of getting it in her eyes and mouth. So we can hear Garland Jones is teaching Mackenzie first to blow a ping pong ball above water.
2, 3, blow. Blow, Mackenzie, blow. Blow. Blow.
Then she eased her into blowing bubbles in the water.
Good job. All right.
And eventually, Mackenzie gets underwater, blows safely without choking, and pops right back up with a big old smile on her face. And Jones told me it really takes patience and specialized training to see this kind of improvement. And, you know, that fact that I mentioned instructors work one-on-one with swimmers and this individualized approach, that's really essential. They're never more than an arm's length away because of that risk I mentioned of wandering for autistic children.
So, are there any criticisms of this statewide voucher program?
Yeah, so something I heard from Tanya and from other recreational therapists was that there just aren't enough swim instructors who are trained to work with kids who have autism and other disabilities. And that low-cost, high-quality programs like Swim Buddies, they're not all that common. And I'd say the biggest criticism I heard from both parents I talked to and also experts was that there historically have not been enough vouchers to meet demand since the program was first launched. Only a third of families that applied actually got the vouchers. And now the Florida legislature this year has increased how much money it's putting towards the program. It was $1 million last year, and now it's invested $1.7 million. So we'll see if that helps to meet some of the demand.
That was NPR reporter Janaki Mehta speaking with me about her recent reporting on a statewide voucher program for swim lessons for autistic children. If you're just joining us, this is The Rundown from WUFT News. I'm Kristen Shermont-Spina. As a reminder, our trivia question this week: which North Central Florida natural landmark became Florida's first state preserve in 1971? The answer's coming up at the end of the show. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Rundown. I'm Kristen Shermont-Spina. Well, here in the summer of 2026, we thought it would be a fun idea to ask people about the music they like. So we sent out WUFT's Theodore Nelson to the University of Florida campus to ask students this question. What song do you keep returning back to again and again, and why?
Hi, my name is Ethan Urichko.
What song do you keep coming back to this summer and why?
I just keep coming back to Redbone by Childish Gambino. Something resonates with my soul, and I love it.
What's your favorite memory or moment of listening to the song?
I remember listening to it back in middle school, and something about walking the halls in middle school and making new friends and just the joy of the time. I think it transports me back to that.
If you were going to tell someone to listen to the song and resonate with a lyric, which one would it be and why?
Oh, man. Gosh, I don't even think I could pick a lyric. The lyrics aren't really what resonate with me, but it's just the vibes of the song. It just feels good.
Hi, my name is Lola Malizia. To anybody who needs this song, you should listen to What Are We by Lizzie McAlpine. I'm in like a unrequited love situation right now, and it's really heartbreaking.
What did this song make you feel the first time you heard it?
I cried. So sad. I was crying by myself in my friend's car, and it just felt like I was bonding with myself, so I think that other people should listen to it as well.
What's like your favorite lyric from the song that like just connects with you and resonates with you?
Did 4 months mean nothing?
4 months mean nothing. If none of it counts for something, then I'm sorry. Oh, if spending every night in your bed.
Hi, my name is Tyler Keystone. Oh, what? You know what I keep on coming back to? Hold up. Lamento Boliviano by Los Enanitos Verdes. I keep coming back to it because I overheard my roommate playing it one time, and then I played it with my friend, and we translated the lyrics, and they were very interesting lyrics, and it's also just a great song.
What's your favorite memory you have of the song?
Probably hearing it through my door when my roommate was playing it, and I was like, damn, this is a good song.
What's your favorite lyric from the song then?
Oh my God, you're gonna make me... Okay, well, I don't speak Spanish, clearly, but I'll go into here and find you my favorite lyric. Let me play you the song. Agita.
Incitan a gritar. Soy como una roca, palabras no me tocan. Adentro hay un volcán que pronto va a estallar.
Hi, my name is Lenai West. The song that I keep going back to is Penthouse by Voice. I don't know, it's just a good Caribbean vibe, and summer is all about, having fun and just being lively.
What's the lyric that comes to mind when you tell them to listen to it?
Basically, it's like, go down, and then go down. Basically, it's just about dancing, just having fun.
Hi, my name is Iris Pose. I think not only me, but a lot of our friends keep coming back to Roses by the Chainsmokers.
What about this song just connects with you?
I think it's a really good summer song, and it's also kind of about old love and reconnections.
What's the best memory you have of listening to the song?
Probably at the Chainsmoker concert that UF had.
Those were responses from UF students on what summer songs people are listening to and why. It was produced by WUFT's Theodore Nelson. Before we end the show today, researchers are asking Floridians to stop and smell the flowers a little extra tomorrow. It's time for the Great Southeast Pollinator Census. That's an annual push to educate the public on the value of insects and gather data for researchers in 6 southern states. Here's how it works. First, you set yourself up in front of a flowering plant. Then, for 15 minutes, you record all of the bees, butterflies, and other bugs that land on it. You submit that info online, and you're done. Last year, people from 59 counties in Florida participated. And this year, the goal is all 67. The census started at the University of Georgia in 2019 and has helped researchers calculate the economic value of pollinators and figure out what sorts of plants they prefer. The count window runs from August 21st to 22nd. The Rundown is a production of WUFT News out of the University of Florida College of Journalism and Communications. The team that made this show possible this week includes Dave Barriswain, Dana Hill, Rose Schnabel, Janaki Mehta, and Theodore Nelson. Special thanks to the Dean of the College, Hub Brown, and Newsroom Director Ethan Majok. Do you have comments or questions about the show today, or ideas for future shows? Email us at therundown@wuft.org. And if you want to go back and listen to this episode again, or any of our previous episodes, you can find this show in your podcast app, or at wuft.org/therundown. Our trivia question this week was, which North Central Florida natural landmark became Florida's first state preserve in 1971? The answer? Payne's Prairie. According to Florida State Parks, more than 20 distinct biological communities provide an array of habitats for wildlife and livestock. Some of these include alligators, bison, horses, and nearly 300 species of birds. The prairie's waters empty through the Alachua Sink, which is actually a sinkhole that is typically blocked by sediment. When the sink is plugged, the water level varies greatly. In fact, in 1871, it became a giant lake and was used as a major shipping route. That's it for The Rundown. I'm Kristen Shermont Spina.